Continuing part 8 of the essay entitled I'm Still Searching. I have a psychological need to be precise, and when one considers the question of abortion, there are a lot of gray areas. A lot of emotion is mixed in here. At what point does a soul become embedded in a mother's womb? When is it completely unethical to consider abortion? Author Sam Harris presents a critique of the pro-life belief that a soul, a person, is created at the instant of conception. Is an additional soul created when a 100-cell blastocyst occasionally divides to become identical twins? Humanist writer Paul Kurtz says in his book Affirmations that good conduct and wisdom in living can be combined in a person to make him or her a decent person with or without God. When I look at humanist values and affirmations, I hear ideas like taking care of the earth for future generations, transcending divisive parochial loyalties based on race, gender, religion, nationality, creed, class, sexual orientation, or ethnicity to work together for the common good of humanity. The cultivation of moral excellence through rationality, nourishing reason and compassion in our children, supporting the disadvantaged and handicapped so they will be able to help themselves, enjoying life in the here and now, and developing our creative talents to the fullest, and choosing hope over despair. It seems too often religion chooses the laying on of guilt rather than building up of hope. The concept of skeptical inquiry is a good one. It's healthy for the human race, I think. People should not just accept ideas at their face value because that is the way they are supposed to think. Children should be taught critical thinking skills in school, not just how to conform. It seems like the people who need religion the most are the ones who have religion as part of their lives. Those who can stand independently at a higher level of moral reasoning do not have to lean on the parent in the sky we call God. The leap of faith is a very, very tough hurdle. A reviewer of the writing of Christopher Hitchens spoke out, saying, anyone of intelligence would not believe because taking it on faith means believing in something without evidence, substantiation, or support. Therefore, those who profess such belief do so without intelligence. Moreover, by implication, such a person cannot be critical of someone who believes in, say, the most absurd thing the imagination can concoct, say the tooth fairy or the Easter bunny. It is time to take the next step in evolution and jettison the mystical explanation, God, now that science has finally progressed and triumphed. Another writer who likes Hitchens' rational view of the world states, quote, today's typical justification for religion involves charitable or humanitarian work. Obviously, this says nothing about the veracity of the belief systems involved. All religions must, at their core, look forward to the end of the world. Atheists, on the other hand, argue this world is all we have, and it's our duty to make the most of it. Now, it is one thing per Hitchens to believe that the magnificence of the natural order strongly implies an ordering force, quite another to say this creative force cares for our human affairs, and it's interested in with whom we have sex with, and how, as well as the outcomes of battles and wars. Even accepting Jesus' birth, it still does not prove he was more than one among many shamans and magicians of the day. Einstein took the view that the miracle is that there are no miracles. Is Christopher Hitchens just an arrogant egomaniac commentator, or is he helping us look at a new and brave and brilliant direction? I think the latter. People who are generally well-read are much less likely to take on a fundamentalist reading of the Bible, whereas it is my observation that many people who do adhere to the literal truth of the Bible, it is possible the only book they have ever read, and so they have no critical reading skills or thinking skills whatsoever. Very, very weak in that area. Anonymous wrote that one. Now here we go again with the concept of critical thinking skills, or are we talking about pure intelligence here? Should we follow blind faith or reasoned discussion based on critical thinking skills? The answer seems obvious. follow the intelligence. Following a God with an unclear definition makes about as much sense as voting for the president with a 95 IQ instead of one with a 195. Let's get out of the Stone Ages and find new ways to find awe and wonder. We can find feelings of wonder and amazement and humility just by looking at the Big Dipper on a clear summer night. The fact that it's not all explained for us makes it even more wonderful, I think. I believe that the human race is attempting to evolve past destructive thought patterns. Moving past that. My hope is that we will choose reason over antiquated ways of looking at the world. Just like war must be abolished, good versus evil type thinking must also be abolished if we are to survive on the earth. But the troubling question is religion far too embedded in our biology? Gabriel Michael, a Yale divinity student who wrote an impassioned article about this deep concern about rabid atheists who are preaching physicalism, is actually practicing faulty thinking, in my opinion. He appears to shut out any possibility of comparing the patterns of thought coming from scientists and from the theologists and postulating about the details. Scientists and theologians have radically different worldviews, and we cannot just push this aside as if it were the politically correct thing to do at the Yale Country Club. As I see it, Michael wants to have it both ways. To have the philosophy of science and a faith peacefully coexist when one is obviously a more advanced form of thinking than the other. What he calls evangelistic atheism is actually so close to the truth that it hurts. He says, I quote, evangelists for atheism who link their philosophical positions to science and end up doing the same science a great disservice by fueling the fire of fundamentalism here and around the world. Calling them evangelists is warranted because if their true goal were the propagation of the acceptance of science, they simply would not focus so much on non-scientific implications. Instead, they spread their various gospels, pander to the popular hobby of religion bashing, and even invoke a persecution complex. If you can purchase a Scarlet Letter t-shirt at richarddawkins.net. In reality, though, Dawkins and his cohort are most likely preaching to the choir. In this argument, both sides lose. Reactionary religion marginalizes itself in the face of the modern scientific world, and evangelical atheism helps to produce more of the very enemies it most despises. I guess if everybody was nice, we could abandon reason and everyone would live in ignorant bliss. Is that what you want, Mr. Michael? Are you simply afraid of the scientific method and how faith is endangered by reason? I also believe in the concept of ahimsa, the principle of nonviolence, which motivated Martin Luther King and Mahatma Gandhi. And that's for the next section.